I pull into the brick-paved drive of Magnolia Crest just after 11 on a Sunday morning in late March, and the first thing I notice is how little has changed. The live oaks still arch overhead like cathedral vaults, their branches heavy with Spanish moss that filters the sunlight into something soft and golden. The Georgian facade rises 3 stories, all white columns and symmetry, the kind of architecture that whispers old money so quietly you almost don't hear it until you've already been judged. I've been coming here since I was 6 years old, always through the side entrance, always aware of the weight of being watched. My phone buzzes as I shift into park. A text from my mother. Please don't be late. Your father is already here. I'm 7 minutes early. I check my reflection in the rearview mirror, not out of vanity, but calculation. My hair is pulled back in a low twist. Minimal makeup. Navy blazer from a Milanese tailor I discovered during a conference in Como. The jeans are Loro Pianar, softer than most people's dress slacks, and they cost more than my first car. My loafers are Venetian leather, hand-stitched. I look exactly like what I am, someone who stopped dressing for other people's approval years ago and started dressing for function, quality, and my own comfort. I know what's coming. I've known since my mother called 3 days ago with that particular honeyed tone she uses when she wants something but won't say it directly. Darling, it's been too long. Your father and I thought it would be lovely to have brunch together. As a family. Caroline will be there, of course. We can catch up properly. Catch up. As if the last time we spoke, 4 months ago, when my mother spent 40 minutes explaining why my decision to fund a girls' coding initiative was a well-intentioned but perhaps not the image we want associated with the Whitmore name, was simply a gap in our schedule rather than a patent 50 years in the making. I walk up the marble steps. The doorman, Gerald, has been here for 30 years. He nods at me with something that might be warmth, or might be the professional neutrality of someone who has learned not to have opinions about the members. Miss Whitmore. Good morning, Gerald. Inside, the foyer is exactly as I remember. Black and white checkered marble, a chandelier the size of a small car, oil paintings of stern-faced men in Confederate grey that no one has bothered to remove because tradition here is a kind of religion. The air smells like furniture polish and old roses. Somewhere in the West Wing, a piano plays something by Debussy. My mother is waiting near the host stand, wearing cream linen and pearls, her posture so erect she could balance books on her head. Eleanor Whitmore at 63 looks like what she is, a woman who has spent her entire life perfecting the art of appearance. She kisses the air beside my cheek. Harper. There you are. Not hello. Not how are you. Just a confirmation of arrival, as if I were a package. I'm early, I say. Yes. Well. Her eyes travel down my body and back up, a scan so practiced it's almost medical. Her smile tightens. I see you've chosen a casual. I don't respond. We've had this conversation in 1,000 variations. She leads me through the main dining room, where Sunday brunch is a kind of theatre. White tablecloths, silver coffee services, arrangements of hydrangeas the size of basketballs. Everyone here knows everyone else, or knows of them, which in this world amounts to the same thing. I can feel eyes tracking us. The Whitmore family. Old name, older money, the kind of lineage that gets you into this room but doesn't guarantee you'll stay relevant. My father and sister are already seated at a table by the window overlooking the gardens. Richard Whitmore looks like Central Casting's idea of a Southern patriarch, silver hair, navy blazer with gold buttons, a signet ring that belonged to his grandfather. He stands when we approach, but his eyes go to my jeans before they reach my face. Harper. His voice carries. It always carries. Glad you could make it. Caroline, my older sister by 3 years, is wearing a dove grey sheath dress and heels that probably cost half what my entire outfit did, but look like they cost twice as much. That's her gift, the ability to make expensive things look effortless, to embody the exact frequency of understated wealth that our mother has always prized. She smiles at me, and it doesn't reach her eyes. "Hi, stranger." I sit. A server appears, a young woman I don't recognize, probably new, and pours water. My father waits until she's gone before he leans forward slightly. "Jeans, Harper?" "They're clean," I say. This is Magnolia Crest, not a coffee shop in San Francisco. I'm aware of where we are. My mother touches my father's arm, a gesture that looks soothing but is really strategic. "Richard, let's not start. We're here to have a nice meal together." But he's already started, and we all know it. This is the dynamic, the script we've been reading from since I was old enough to disappoint them. My father establishes the critique. My mother tempers it with false diplomacy. Caroline watches, silent and smug, secure in the knowledge that she is not the problem child. I'm simply saying, and my father continues, that there are standards. Expectations. You know how people talk. Do I? Don't be smart, Harper. The server returns to take our orders. I ask for the smoked salmon. My mother orders egg whites. Caroline gets the fruit plate. My father orders the steak and eggs, rare, as if the bloodiness is proof of something. The conversation that follows is a kind of performance art in passive aggression. My mother asks about my little projects. My father mentions, casually, that Caroline and her husband, Todd, just closed on a house in Ardsley Park, the right neighborhood, the right school district, the right everything. Caroline talks about the garden club charity auction she's chairing, and my mother beams as if she personally orchestrated Caroline's excellence. No one asks about my work. No one mentions that 9 months ago, I sold the cybersecurity company I built from nothing for enough money that I will never have to think about money again. No one acknowledges that 3 venture capital firms have offered me partnerships, or that I was profiled in Forbes, or that the Secretary of Commerce invited me to speak on a panel about emerging technology and national security. Because to acknowledge those things would be to acknowledge that I succeeded on terms they didn't set, in a world they don't understand, in a way that makes their approval irrelevant. Halfway through the meal, my father sets down his fork with a deliberate clink. I have to say, Harper, I'm disappointed you didn't think to consult us before making some of your recent investments. I look at him steadily. Which investments? We hear things. You know how it is. People talk. He waves a hand vaguely. Funding initiatives for underprivileged girls. Supporting organizations that, well, let's just say they don't align with the family's traditional values. You mean organizations that teach girls to code? I mean organizations that make political statements. Teaching girls computer science is a political statement? Everything is political now, Harper. You know that. And the Whitmore name means something. When you attach it to these causes. I don't use the Whitmore name, I say quietly. I use my own name. And my own money. My mother intervenes again, her voice sugared with concern. Darling, your father is just worried about how things look. We all are. It's not that we don't support our education. Of course we do. But there are appropriate channels. Established charities. The Junior League, for instance. I'm not interested in the Junior League. No, Caroline says, speaking for the first time in several minutes. You've made that abundantly clear. I turn to her. Have I done something to offend you, Caroline? You've always done exactly what you wanted, Harper. Consequences be damned. Is pursuing a career I'm good at damning the consequences? Pursuing a career that embarrasses your family is. The table goes quiet. Around us, the ambient noise of the dining room continues, the clink of silverware, the murmur of conversation, the piano still playing in the distance. But at our table, the silence is a living thing. My father leans back in his chair, studying me. You've always been difficult, Harper. Even as a child. Your mother and I have tried to guide you, to help you understand the importance of family, of legacy, of maintaining the standards that have served the Whitmore name for generations. But you've consistently chosen to go your own way. Is that a question or an accusation? It's an observation. Noted. His jaw tightens. I can see the color rising in his face, the way it always does when he doesn't get the deference he believes is owed. This attitude of yours. I don't have an attitude, Dad. I just don't agree with you. Same thing, in my experience. Then you have limited experience. My mother gasps softly, as if I've said something truly shocking rather than simply refusing to be cowed. Caroline looks at me with something between pity and contempt. My father stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is exactly what I'm talking about. His voice is louder now, carrying across the dining room. Heads turn. You come here, to this establishment, dressed like a contractor, and you have the nerve to be disrespectful. To your own father. In public. I'm wearing jeans, Dad. Not a scarlet letter. You're wearing jeans at Magnolia Crest. There are standards here. Dress codes. Rules that everyone is expected to follow. Everyone. He turns, scanning the room, and I realize with a cold certainty what's about to happen. Where is management? Someone get me a manager. People are staring now. The piano has stopped. My mother's face is a mask of mortification, but I can't tell if she's mortified by me or by the scene my father is making. Caroline has gone very still, her eyes bright with something that might be vindication. A floor manager appears, a man in his 50s named William Chen who has worked here for 20 years. I know this because I've read his personnel file. I've read everyone's personnel file. Mr. Whitmore. Is everything all right? No, William, it is not. My daughter has chosen to attend Sunday brunch in jeans. I believe that violates the dress code, does it not? William glances at me, and I see something flicker across his face. Uncertainty, maybe, or discomfort. Sir, the dress code does request business casual attire. Request? It requires it. And jeans, no matter how expensive. He gestures at me as if I'm evidence in a trial, and not business casual. They're casual. And I won't have my family associated with this kind of laxness. I'm asking you to enforce the rules. If she won't leave voluntarily, she should be escorted out. The silence that follows is absolute. I can feel the weight of every eye in the room. This is the moment my father has engineered: public humiliation, social pressure, the forcing of my compliance through shame. It's a tactic he's used my entire life. The only variable is the audience. William looks deeply uncomfortable. Mr. Whitmore, I'm sure we can resolve this without. Are you going to enforce the dress code, or do I need to speak to the executive director? That won't be necessary, a calm voice says from behind me. I turn. Marcus Beaumont, the executive director of Magnolia Crest, is walking toward our table with the unhurried confidence of someone who has managed crises for a living. He's in his early 60s, impeccably dressed, with the kind of diplomatic bearing that comes from years of navigating the egos of the very wealthy. Mr. Whitmore. Mrs. Whitmore. Ladies. He nods at each of us in turn. I understand there's a concern about dress code compliance. My father straightens, sensing validation. Yes. Finally. Someone who takes the standards of this institution seriously. Marcus looks at me, and I see something in his expression I can't quite read. Miss Whitmore, would you mind stepping into my office for a moment? I think we can sort this out quietly. Of course, I say. I stand. My mother reaches for my hand, a gesture that might look affectionate to onlookers but feels like a warning. Harper, please. Just apologize. For what? For making a scene. I didn't make the scene. Mom. But I'll go with Mr. Beaumont. I follow Marcus through the dining room, past tables of people who are no longer pretending not to stare. My father, I notice, is following us, along with my mother and Caroline. Of course they are. They wouldn't miss this. Marcus leads us to the administrative wing, down a hallway lined with photographs of the club's history. Its founding in 1892, expansions in the 20s and 50s, various presidents and boards of directors. We enter a large office with mahogany paneling and windows overlooking the gardens. Marcus gestures for us to sit. My father remains standing. Now, Marcus says, let's address the dress code question. It's quite simple, my father says. The rules state. I'm familiar with the rules, Mr. Whitmore. I wrote many of them. Marcus sits behind his desk and folds his hands. However, there's been a recent development that I think you should be aware of. What development? Marcus looks at me. Miss Whitmore, would you prefer to explain, or shall I? This is the moment. I've imagined it 100 times in the past 9 months, running through variations and outcomes, wondering how it would feel when it finally arrived. Now that it's here, I feel nothing but a strange, clear calm. I'll explain, I say. I turn to my father. 9 months ago, Magnolia Crest was facing significant financial difficulties. Deferred maintenance, declining membership, operational costs that exceeded revenue. The board was exploring options, including selling the property to a hotel developer. My father frowns. I don't see what this has to do with. I purchased the club, I say. Through a holding company. The sale closed in June. The silence that follows is different from the one in the dining room. That was the silence of social discomfort. This is the silence of incomprehension, the moment when reality reorganizes itself around a new fact that doesn't fit the existing narrative. My mother speaks first. You or what? I bought Magnolia Crest. The building, the grounds, the business operations. All of it. Caroline laughs, a sharp, disbelieving sound. That's insane. How would you even? I had the capital. The board had a motivation to sell. We negotiated terms. How much? My father asks. His voice is flat. Does it matter? How much, Harper? 14 million, I say. Plus assumption of certain liabilities and a commitment to fund renovations and operational improvements. My father sits down. He actually sits down, heavily, as if his legs have stopped working. My mother has gone pale. Caroline is staring at me like I've grown a second head. You spent $14 million, my father says slowly, are to buy a social club. I spent $14 million to preserve a historic institution and protect the jobs of 73 people who depend on it for their livelihood. The fact that it's a social club is secondary. This is, and my father seems to be searching for a word. This is revenge. You did this to humiliate us. I did this 9 months ago, Dad. You had no idea until 30 seconds ago. If I wanted to humiliate you, I would have told you. Marcus clears his throat. If I may, there are some procedural matters we should discuss. He slides a folder across the desk toward my father. The club's bylaws include provisions regarding member conduct, particularly conduct that damages the reputation of the institution or creates a hostile environment for other members or staff. My father opens the folder, scans the first page. What is this? A formal complaint, I say. Filed by 3 members who witnessed your behavior in the dining room, and a separate complaint filed by 2 staff members who have experienced similar treatment from you over the past year. That's absurd. The complaints are documented and witnessed, Marcus says. Under the bylaws, the executive director is empowered to take immediate action in cases where a member's conduct poses a reputational risk to the club. My father looks at me. You're doing this. You're behind this. I'm the owner of the club, I say. But I'm not the one who demanded his daughter be thrown out of brunch for wearing jeans. You did that. In front of 40 witnesses. Harper, please. My mother's voice is barely a whisper. This is your father. I know who he is, Mom. Marcus continues, his tone professionally neutral. Mr. Whitmore, I'm issuing a 30-day suspension of your membership, effective immediately, pending a formal disciplinary review by the board. Mrs. Whitmore, as a linked family member, your membership is also suspended pending the outcome of that review. Mrs. Bennett, he looks at Caroline, your associate membership will be suspended as well. This is insane, Caroline says. Harper, you can't. I'm not doing anything, I say. The club's governance structure is doing it. These are the rules you all claim to care so much about. My father stands. His face is red now, genuinely red, and I can see the fury in his eyes. You vindictive little. Mr. Whitmore. Marcus's voice cuts through the air like a blade. I'm going to have to ask you to leave the property. Security will escort you to your vehicle. This is my club. This is Miss Whitmore's club. You are a suspended member. Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. 2 security officers appear in the doorway. They are professionals, calm and polite, but their presence is unmistakable. My father looks at them, at Marcus, at me. For a moment, I think he might actually lose control, might shout or make a scene that will cement exactly the kind of behavior the bylaws were written to prevent. But he doesn't. He straightens his blazer, adjusts his cuffs, and walks toward the door with as much dignity as a man being escorted out by security can muster. My mother follows, her face a mask. Caroline stops at the doorway and turns back to look at me. I hope you're happy, she says. I'm not unhappy. You've destroyed this family. No, Caroline. I just stopped pretending we were something we're not. She leaves. Marcus and I sit in silence for a moment. Through the window, I can see the gardens, the perfectly manicured lawns, the fountain where I used to sit as a child and wish I were anywhere else. Are you all right? Marcus asks. I'm fine. That was significant. It was necessary. He nods. For what it's worth, you're doing good work here. The staff appreciates the changes you've made. The wage increases, the benefits improvements, the respect. It means something. Thank you. Do you think they'll appeal the suspension? No. I say. They won't. How can you be sure? Because appealing would require them to admit that they care about the club more than they care about punishing me. And they don't. I leave Marcus's office and walk through the club alone. It's early afternoon now. The brunch service is winding down. I can hear the sounds of staff clearing tables, the kitchen, life continuing as it always does. I walk out onto the terrace that overlooks the river. The Savannah River is brown and slow, winding through the city like a liquid history. I've stood on this terrace 100 times, always feeling like an intruder, always aware that I didn't quite belong. Now I own it. And I still feel like an intruder. My phone buzzes. A text from my attorney, Danielle Brooks. He heard what happened. You okay? I type back, fine. It went as expected. Good. Call me if you need anything. I pocket my phone and lean against the railing. A part of me, a small, stubborn part that I've tried to bury, wanted something different to happen in that office. I wanted my father to be surprised, yes, but I also wanted him to be impressed. Proud, even. I wanted him to see what I'd accomplished and recognize it for what it was. Not revenge, not a stunt, but competence. Success. The same drive and intelligence he'd spent my entire childhood dismissing as inadequate. But that didn't happen. It never happens. Because the thing I've been slow to accept, the truth that's taken me 34 years to internalize, is that his approval was never based on achievement. It was based on compliance. On becoming the version of myself that fit his narrative. And I have never been, will never be, that version. Over the next month, I receive 47 text messages from my mother, 19 voicemails from my father, and 3 emails from Caroline. I respond to none of them. Danielle advises me to document everything, to keep records, to be prepared for legal action that never comes. My parents don't appeal. The disciplinary review proceeds without them. I attend the review hearing, held in the same mahogany-paneled office where the confrontation occurred. The board consists of 5 longtime members, people I've known peripherally my entire life. They review the evidence, written complaints from members, testimony from staff, the recording of my father's behavior in the dining room captured by the club's security cameras. They deliberate for 20 minutes and return with a unanimous recommendation: permanent revocation of membership for Richard and Eleanor Whitmore. Associate status revoked for Caroline Whitmore Bennett. Do you approve this recommendation? The board chair asks me. I could say no. I could overrule them, could grant clemency, could be the bigger person in the way that women are always expected to be the bigger person, absorbing hurt and returning grace. I approve, I say. The notice is sent to my parents the following day. I don't hear from them. What I do hear, through the social grapevine that exists in every community like this, is that they're shocked. Appalled. That they're telling people I'm unstable, vindictive, that I've changed. What they don't say, what they can't say, is that I was wrong. 6 weeks after the suspension, I receive a text from Caroline. A mom wants to talk. Can we meet? I stare at the message for a long time. Then I type, a dinner. Neutral location. Just the 4 of us. We meet at a restaurant downtown, a place with high ceilings and good wine and enough ambient noise that our conversation won't be overheard. My parents arrive first. My father looks older than I remember, the lines around his mouth deeper. My mother is perfectly composed, as always, but there's something brittle in the way she holds herself. Caroline arrives last. She's wearing black, which feels appropriate. We order. No one touches the bread basket. The small talk is excruciating. Weather, traffic, the neutral territory of words that mean nothing. Finally, my father speaks. We wanted to see you because we think it's time we cleared the air. All right. What happened at the club, what you did, was humiliating. For all of us. Your mother's friends won't speak to her. My business associates have distanced themselves. And Caroline has had to resign from 2 committees. Caroline finishes. Because of the association. I take a sip of water. I'm sorry you've experienced social consequences. But I didn't cause them. Your behavior caused them. Our behavior? My mother's voice is tight. Harper, your father made a simple request about a dress code. He tried to have me thrown out of a public space because I wore jeans. He did it loudly, deliberately, in front of dozens of people. That's not a simple request. That's a power play. He's your father. Which doesn't give him the right to humiliate me. My father leans forward. Everything I have ever done has been for this family. To build something, to create a legacy, to give you and your sister opportunities. To give us opportunities to be who you wanted us to be, I say. Not who we are. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked me about my work? When was the last time you attended something I cared about? When was the last time you expressed interest in my life beyond how it reflects on you? Silence. You haven't. I continue. Because my life doesn't fit the story you want to tell. I'm the disappointing daughter. The one who chose wrong. The one who embarrasses you by existing outside your control. That's not. And my mother starts, but I hold up a hand. Let me finish. For my entire life, I have tried to earn your respect. Your approval. Your love, even, though I'm not sure you know what that word means beyond the transactional. I won science fairs and you asked why I didn't enter the debate team. I started a company and you asked why I didn't go to law school. I succeeded by every objective measure and you treated it like a phase I'd grow out of. And the thing is, I look at each of them, I'm done. I'm done trying. I'm done apologizing. I'm done shrinking myself to make you comfortable. So this is it? Caroline asks. You're just cutting us out? No. I'm offering a different relationship. One based on mutual respect. Where you don't belittle my choices, and I don't fund your social ambitions. Where we interact as adults, not as parents managing a defective child. That's absurd, and my father says. You're our daughter. We have a right. You have no rights, I say quietly. You have opportunities. To be in my life or not. To respect my boundaries or not. To see me as a person or continue seeing me as a disappointment. But the choice is yours. My mother dabs at her eyes with a napkin, though I don't see tears. You've become so hard, Harper. No, Mom. I've become clear. The dinner ends badly. Or maybe it ends exactly as it needed to. My parents leave first, my father's hand on my mother's elbow, a united front against the unreasonable daughter. Caroline lingers at the table, finishing her wine. You really bought Magnolia Crest, she says. $14 million. Yes. That's. She shakes her head. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Do you hate us? Is that what this is? I consider the question. No. I don't hate you. I just don't need your approval anymore. And that's scarier to you than hate would be. She leaves without saying goodbye. I drive home alone, through streets I've known my whole life, past houses where people I grew up with are living lives that look nothing like mine. When I get home, a converted loft in the historic district that I bought with my own money and furnished with things I actually like, not things that project status, I sit on my couch and cry. Not because I'm sad, exactly, but because something has ended, and endings are always a kind of grief, even when they're necessary. The next morning, I wake up and go to work. Work, now, is whatever I want it to be. I take meetings with startups who need strategic advice. I sit on 2 boards. I mentor women in tech who are navigating the same terrain I navigated, trying to build things in spaces that weren't designed for them. I invest in companies I believe in. And I manage Magnolia Crest. The club, under my ownership, begins to change. Slowly, carefully, in ways that preserve its history while dismantling its exclusivity. I increase staff wages by 18% across the board. I implement paid family leave. I fund a scholarship program for staff members' children. I renovate the kitchen, upgrade the HVAC, repair the roof that's been leaking for 3 years. I also update the membership bylaws. The dress code becomes genuinely business casual, with jeans explicitly permitted. The guest policy is expanded. Membership fees are restructured to be less prohibitively expensive. Applications that were previously blackballed based on a cultural fit, a euphemism for not being the right kind of family, are reconsidered. Some longtime members resign in protest. They call the changes a betrayal of tradition. They say I'm destroying what made Magnolia Crest special. What they mean is that I'm destroying what made it theirs. But more members stay. And new members apply. And the club, slowly, becomes something different. Not a gatekeeper of social hierarchy, but a gathering place. A business. A piece of history that's still alive. 6 months after the suspension, I'm standing on the terrace again. It's evening, and the light over the river is golden and soft. I come here sometimes after hours, when the club is quiet and I can think without the weight of performance. Tonight, I'm reviewing plans for the next phase of renovations, a modernized event space, better accessibility features, solar panels on the roof. Miss Whitmore? I turn. It's Vanessa, one of the servers, a young woman in her early 20s who started working here a few months before I bought the place. She's bright, efficient, the kind of person who notices things. Vanessa. Hi. Everything okay? Oh, yes. I wanted to thank you. For the scholarship program. I applied, and I got it. Full tuition for nursing school. Something warm unfurls in my chest. That's wonderful. Congratulations. My mom didn't think I should apply. She said people like us don't get opportunities like that. But I did, and thank you. You earned it. Your application was excellent. Still, it wouldn't exist if you hadn't created it. She leaves, and I turn back to the river. People like us. I think about what that phrase means, the way it divides the world into categories of deserving and undeserving, possible and impossible. I think about my parents, who would have put Vanessa in their not our concern category, who would have seen her ambition as admirable but fundamentally separate from their world. I think about the version of myself who came to brunch 6 months ago, wearing expensive jeans and carrying the weight of a lifetime of not enough. That version of me wanted to prove something. Wanted to demonstrate that I was more than they believed, bigger than their judgment, capable of wielding the kind of power they respected. This version of me, the one standing here now, has realized something different. The power I wanted was never about making them see me. It was about seeing myself clearly, without the distortion of their expectations. I don't need them to be proud of me. I don't need them to understand the choices I've made or the life I've built. I don't need their approval or their love, because I've learned, finally, painfully, necessarily, that love that's conditional isn't love. It's control. And I am done being controlled. The light fades over the river, gold darkening to amber, then rust, then the deep blue of twilight. I stand on the terrace of a club I own, in a city I've never left, living a life I built with my own hands. 6 months ago, I arrived here shrinking, expecting judgment, armored against disappointment. Tonight, I stand steady. I don't shrink. I don't armor. I simply exist, in my full and complicated self, in a place that once felt like exile and now feels like possibility. The light fades. I don't.